10 minutes, 10 days, 10 actions is brought to you by 2 Sum It Up. Expert sales tips and advice provided in a structured, bite-sized way for only £97. Learn how to improve your processes with 10-minute podcasts provided each day for 10 days, which you can listen to from the comfort of your own home, office, or whilst out and about. For more information, visit 2summitup.co.uk/10-actions. You're listening to Go Fish, exclusively on the Pod Station.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Go Fish Marketing Podcast. My name is Matt Pollard. My business is Funky Vibes Marketing. Joining me as always are my fellow co-hosts. We have the lovely Elaine Atherton from To Sum It Up. How are we doing, Elaine?
I'm good. Good to see you both as always. Yes, I'm good.
And of course, Chris Roxburgh from My Marketing Guy. How are we doing, Chris?
Hi. Yeah, good, thanks. Yes, a little stir crazy in the circumstances, but then aren't we all?
Well, I suppose we should wish everyone a happy new year for 2021 because this is technically the first recording that we've done since the new year, although we were very badly pretending it was a new year recording for our New Year's resolution show. We were full of festive wonderment and excitement, weren't we?
Well, I'm not sure that was the case, but okay then.
And Boris Johnson delivered us a wonderful Christmas present by telling us we were all going to be locked in our houses for a touch longer in 2021, so hence the stir crazy reference, eh?
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah, it's happening. We're all going stir crazy, but hey ho.
I'm ready for me vaccine, thank you very much. So quickly before we move on, just a little bit of housekeeping. Now, we've had a little bit of an addition to our social medias. So actually, in addition to being able to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, where we regularly post posing questions and promos for the show and generally invite you to comment and ask us questions and the like. We've also advanced ourselves into the YouTube world. We thought it might be useful if people could listen to the show in full on YouTube as well, because some people use it for those purposes. So you can just go and find Go Fish Marketing Tips Podcast. If you do a search, that should pop up nicely there. If you want to email us any questions, any topic suggestions, of course you're all sitting around twiddling your thumbs, no doubt, or else you're absolutely up the wall because everyone else is twiddling their thumbs. Then you can send us an email to gofish@thepodstation.co.uk. We're keen for you to give us an idea of what you want us to talk about, what you want us to research, because ultimately we're doing these shows for the benefit of you guys, the listeners, and not because we just want to talk to each other, because I think both Elaine and I are very much of the opinion that if we could avoid talking to Chris on a general basis, we would do.
Not very nice at all. I'm sure it's not true in Elaine's case.
Well, don't be putting me on the spot after insulting me 5 minutes ago.
Well, it could be worse, because in the green room, we'll call it, I managed to mix up my sentences. That's the story I'm sticking to anyway. And called Elaine Emma. Which, it suits you, Elaine, because you've got such a friendly face. I guess we can apply many names to you.
Well, Lorraine's are normally a favourite of Chris's, but oh dear. Well, what did he say? Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Oh,
good job I'm not a revengeful person.
We'll be watching our backs then for the next few weeks.
I wouldn't worry.
Now, in the new year, we have decided that we're going to get back into our good habits again and introduce some of the features that we were running a while back. And slightly fell off because lockdown caused a catastrophic reshuffle of all of our recording orders, and so some of the things that we recorded in terms of news features were no longer necessarily timely and relevant, so we've cut them out. But we're going to get back into the habit of doing those things because a lot of people came back and gave us feedback to say that it was something that was of interest. So has anyone got any news for us this week?
I have, Mark. So something that I've been reading recently. It's not sudden news, but it is. It's a growth area of the self-employed, and I think we know why. But those self-employed that are currently joining the ranks and have done since lockdown, or should we say since March 2019, when employment began to be affected. Those people are all being plunged into a situation that they're not used to. A lot of people will have been employed by large companies, smaller companies, medium-sized companies, etc., and now they find themselves working for themselves. And it's a big step to take, and you can't do it on your own. And my concern for those self-employed is that they do things properly, so to give their businesses the best possible chance of success. And we have done other podcasts on self-employment, and we probably need to refer people to that without going into too much detail. But an interesting, digging down into the stats, an interesting stat to me was that Liverpool City region has the highest proportion of young entrepreneurs, and young being 16 to 34. This is followed by Greater London, and that took my breath away. The fact that the region that we are all in, not all our listeners, but that we are all in, has such a high proportion of young entrepreneurs, and we all know some of them. So good on them, but do take care. Do make sure you get the right legal advice, accountancy advice, professional advice in other areas, marketing, and so on and so forth. That's my message for today, Mark. The growth of the self-employed nationally, but in particular in our own area.
Absolutely. It's one of those things, Elaine, and we won't get bogged down into it too much because we could probably spend a whole show talking about this.
Well, we could.
Where it's often a double-edged sword when you're self-employed, because all the stresses and the pressures that go with being self-employed are far greater because everything rests on your shoulders to a degree, and if it doesn't work out, it's sort of, you don't have the cushion of a pay packet landing in your pocket by default. By the same token, most, if not all, of the people I've ever spoken to are self-employed. I've always seen that as, albeit a challenge worth doing because of the opportunities that it presents for you to work, and on the basis that now's a great time with people being furloughed and being made redundant to show that just because you've got a job, it doesn't mean to say you're gainfully and securely employed. And there's plenty of money sloshing around. I mean, obviously, where we're going to get the money to repay the money is an entirely different problem that thankfully isn't my question to have to answer. But there are lots of grants out there. There's lots of startup loans and funding schemes that are there to design to stimulate the economy on the basis that the vast majority of our economy, and I can't remember what it is, it's something like 98% or something stupid, is made up of SMEs. There's some real opportunities out there for folk.
Yeah. No, there totally is. And, just sort of wrapping up there what Chris said as well, that's fantastic news. There are so many in the Liverpool area, the Merseyside area, which is great news. I think no matter what, is tap into the resources that are out there. I think it's one thing making the decision to start your own business, and but then it's like honing in on who is it you're helping and what does that look like. I totally agree with what you're saying, Mark. I've talked to 3 people alone this week who took the leap of starting their own business, and that it is that having that, you haven't got that cushion anymore of the pay packet, but equally the flip side to that is that people say they were just felt totally controlled and they wanted to take that step, and that outweighed the worry of the pay pack. But bottom line is tap into all those resources that are there, because there is so much funded stuff now. Head to the right places. You can find them if you go on the internet. You can find them all in your local area, and just start speaking to people, because it's unfortunately when you start your own business, so many people like to give you advice, and it's not always the best advice. It's well-intended advice, but it's not always the best. So go to the experts and get some really sound, foundations in place, is what I would suggest.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Now, I've just got another piece of news which I wanted to slip in there. I suspect this could also be a show in itself, and I don't want us to get bogged down into necessarily the politics or the contentious nature of it, because it could very much, it could suck up the entire show doing it. It's that there has very recently been an update of Facebook's WhatsApp terms to bring them more in line with the relatively recently updated Instagram, and I suspect the Facebook terms as well. And there is quite a lot of concern, as it were, about the access to data, how that data is being used, what information they can collate on you by virtue of the fact that they're using their platform. To give you some examples, there's sections in the terms which allow them, they refer to the camera on your phone as being their camera, and that they can record it at any time. They can follow people's URL history, so even though you might be using a web browser on your phone, which isn't Facebook, by virtue of the fact that they have access and are entitled to that information, they can have the contact information of all the contacts on your phone, even if they're not people who you're connected with in Facebook. So there's a huge amount in there, and I would certainly advise people to go and read some good articles about the topic, so you can perhaps better understand it, to make your own mind up about the pros and the cons. But I thought it was worth mentioning because, certainly me as a person and a business owner, I find myself stuck in a real quandary, because from a personal perspective, I would quite frankly ditch anything to do with any Facebook apps or platforms because of the terms and what data I'm essentially giving up. But I find myself caught in a catch-22 insofar as I use these platforms for work, and if I don't use them for work, I'll probably lose out financially quite a lot. And so it's weighing up that balance of essentially selling my soul to the devil, but actually selling my soul to the devil in order to keep my business going, but not to, or to try and limit to what extent. Does that make sense?
I know. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place, as the expression goes, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. So I would advise people to check it out, and as I say, we could debate the pros and cons of this forever and ever and ever, and we won't do, because we've got a far more stimulating topic to deal with today, which is, would anyone like to unveil it?
Oh, I'll go for it. It's that headache of marketing from home.
We thought this was quite timely, didn't we? Given Bojo's Christmas present to us, we were going to be locked in for a wee while longer.
Every time we say Bojo, my daughter's one of her best friends called Bojo, so it's really quite weird every time we say that.
It was a decision that was going to have to be made, and there's no suggestions that what he's, or rather what the government have decided is right or wrong. But it does create some challenges, or does it create some opportunities? I guess that's the topic that we're going to kind of look at, because there is definitely some pros and there are certainly some cons to having to run a business, and more specifically for the purposes of this show, market your business when you are at home. So we're going to run through some of the pros and cons, and then hopefully we'll throw out some suggestions and some ideas that might help solve these problems if they're kind of what you're facing. So who would like to go first?
Well, I'll go first. There are challenges and opportunities here, aren't there, Mark? The challenges are no different to what they were before. We can't meet people. There is no face-to-face stuff. It's all going to be on Zoom again, or I suppose other Zoom type platforms are available. But the opportunities, I think, are that we are not geographically bound anymore. Those shackles have been taken off. That happened long ago. Whether or not everybody took advantage of it is another thing altogether. But from my perspective, I'm beginning to get inquiries and to do work with people who are Birmingham-based, Midlands-based, should we say, home counties-based, and they are people who I probably would have thought twice about going to visit because of the distance and so on and so forth. That sounds a bit wimpish, but there's a lot of clients to be had from a local area. But if you can do this stuff over the internet, over Zoom, if you can make contact and open a dialogue, semi face-to-face or screen-to-screen, whatever you want to call it, then that's a real opportunity. So it's the geographical one for me. That's the top one.
In terms of the personal contact, Elaine, I suppose the flip side to that, which is, it's a fantastic point that Chris has made, the ability to tap into a whole nation without having to leave the comfort of your own home is immeasurable, and probably something that we've overlooked in the past. But where do we stand on the lack of personal contact? Both, I suppose, in terms of our mentality as a business owner and keeping on doing that positive step forward in terms of trying to market your business when you're locked away, and secondly, the effectiveness of your marketing, and certainly in terms of building relationships with people when you're locked away at home. And just before I give you a chance to answer, I'm sort of looking at that from a personal perspective, where if we listen back to the lockdown episode right back in April, May, whenever it was, I sort of joked about the fact that I'm not necessarily a people person, so I was quite happy being locked away at home. But sort of 10 months on, the novelty of being locked away in my house has well and truly worn off. And
even for you.
And even me, even the most unsociable of toads, is now just desperate for a bit of a man hug.
Oh, bless. Oh, God. No, and you're absolutely spot on. There's a few things in there, really. You're absolutely right. Chris, great course we can connect online and all of that. And there was something I would say about that, though, is we could, not saying people have, but some people could think, oh, this is actually really quite easy because I can just tap into all these networking things online and meet people and blah, blah, blah. And you still have to do the same, build that connection and build that rapport. If you're the network hopper, your people, it's still going to work the same. People are still not going to look at you and think, oh, I saw that guy or woman on something 3 weeks ago, I'm going to pass her some business. It doesn't work like that. So you've still got to build the rapport and that connection. So it's, if you're going to do the networking online, which obviously, at the current time has to replace the face-to-face stuff, you've got to give it commitment. And the key is, of course, is find the one or the ones that work for you, and the group that works for you. So you've got to invest in it, whatever that looks like.
I don't know if I've put that over badly earlier, but I'm not really talking about networking. I'm talking about receiving a specific inquiry from a company in the Midlands being able to follow that up with a phone call, being able to arrange a Zoom, getting to know them, being able to share screens and demonstrate what you can do, etc., etc. I think that's a very valid way now. And I mean, let's be honest, we've all had clients who we've barely ever seen. I had one based in Surrey for 4 or 5 years. I when I was down in Surrey on one occasion, I arranged to go and see him, but I never made a specific journey to him. He found me on one of the social media, LinkedIn, probably actually, and he said, "Look, you sound like you offer the sort of services that I need. Can we talk?" And we did. And as I say, I worked for him for 4 or 5 years, meeting him only once, so I couldn't really pretend to have known him. We didn't go through the know, like, and trust process. We went through that on the hoof as we were working with one another.
I suppose that the two things that the thing that ties both of these together, both in terms of the networking online and receiving inquiries and links, is there anything specifically that people need to bear in mind to do to try and build those personal relationships? Because ultimately, if you're networking and trying to get work from people as a referral, then you're building that relationship. And if you've got an inquiry and you're getting in contact with them, you need to build that relationship. And I suppose the question is, how much more difficult is it to build a relationship with someone that you've only ever seen on a screen?
Well, I think that goes back to individuals, doesn't it? Because some people are really comfortable with it and find it really easy. The people who are generally face-to-face people and are big on the conversations I've found it harder to adjust to Zoom because they're used to that one-to-one interaction and building rapport and all of that. So it depends on us as individuals. Some have transitioned really well and others haven't. And I think the point I was making before is more about whatever way you do it, you've got to build that connection, that rapport, because quite honestly it's like anything running a business. We've all had to reshuffle how we do it, and you're going to find the ways that work for you, but you can't none of us can sit here and just think, oh, let's just wait for everyone to come to us. You've got to be doing things to get yourself in front of people, and whether that's LinkedIn, networking, online, whatever it is, you've got to find a route that works for you, which is why, of course, there's so many options out there now, and not all those options don't work for everybody, and it's taken some people months to figure out which ones work for them and which ones don't. But it is as it is at the moment. It's like moving your training online. We've all had to do things that I did it anyway, but other people didn't, so that was a challenge for them. I've had other challenges. So we're all in a different place with it, but it's finding what works for you, because it's not going to disappear overnight. We're set for this change is going to carry on. It might ease, but it's still going to carry on.
The brain processes nearly 10,000 visual and oral cues per minute. As first impressions stick, make the customer see your business in the right way. Funky Vibes can ensure your vibes attract the right tribe with their marketing expertise, graphic design, bespoke websites, and social media packages. For more information or a no-commitment initial consultation, simply email your tribe at funkyvibe.co.uk.
I mean, for me, some practical recommendations for people in terms of building relationships over a screen, which is certainly what people are going to have to accept is more likely to be the case, certainly for the next 2 or 3 months, will be become familiar with the settings and the facilities and the tools on the platform that you use. So if you use Zoom, become familiar with it. So learn about how to change your audio settings to increase or decrease as might be the case. Learn about the screen sharing option that Chris mentioned, because that is quite an invaluable tool to show people something that you might normally do in person. So you might say, right, just have a look at this screen, I'll show you what to do. You can now do this over the screen. Make sure your Wi-Fi is decent if you are going to try and do those kind of things. Because without a good Wi-Fi signal, you may be limited in some of those facilities. So, for example, doing a Zoom takes up a good amount of bandwidth, but if you then share your screen, increases the use of the bandwidth. And depending upon what you're trying to show, so for example, if you're trying to run a demonstration video or something like that while screen sharing, it might be so laggy that even though the video's running at your end, it won't be running at their end. No, well, I've tried. You see, this comes down to trial and error. So I used a couple of events that I arranged to trial these things, and we had a couple of A and B scenarios, and that was the biggest issue. You have to remember that the Wi-Fi at your end is going to be different to the Wi-Fi at their end. So you might have brilliant bandwidth, they might have rubbish bandwidth. So the things that work at this end might not work at that end. Get a green screen. You can get them very cheap. We'll throw a link in the show notes, because the green screen will allow you to use the virtual background. So instead of sitting in front of, I don't know, a pile of boxes in your spare room, you can actually be sat in front of anything that you want. Pick a good virtual background, preferably one with branding on it. Get a selfie light. I'm not a selfie person, but the lights are really useful for making sure that you're properly illuminated when you're doing these online meetings. And depending upon the device that you use, it will help them better identify you and your background, so that if it's properly lit, the quality of your background and the quality of you and your visual will be a lot clearer. And I suppose the other thing is just bear in mind what device you're using. Your laptop might be great for using it for your work purposes, but if it's 100 years old, the camera's probably going to be rubbish. So actually, might you be better off using an iPad for doing the meetings and using your laptop separately? Because actually, if the camera on your iPad's better than the one on your laptop, you'll get more benefit from the visual aspect. Because again, if like Chris has said, you're meeting with somebody, you're trying to impress them, aren't you? You want to give the best first impression. And if they jump onto a meeting call having never met you before, you've got a clear picture, you're well lit, you've got a great branded background, everything's working fine, you can share your screen without there being any problems. Lo and behold, they think you're a really slick operation.
Yeah. Don't do what I do, is have your before Christmas, went from one Zoom call, which was a Christmas party and had little antlers on, and then went straight on to the next Zoom with them left on, talking to someone I'd never met before. Which was a bit of until I looked at myself and realised I still had them on. But anyway, that was interesting. So
always turn your phone off too.
Yes, well, you know all about that, Chris. What about, I suppose the final thing just before we move on from the sort of virtual meeting, I suppose, is mentioning the benefits of the commute, the amount of time and money that you save by not having to drive everywhere. I mean, that's a particular favourite of mine.
Well, it is. It's a huge plus, isn't it? There was once, I don't know who it was who said it. Somebody who listened to recently said, don't because you've got all this extra time, if you like, and your travel time's gone, don't feel the need to fill every single hour of it with another Zoom call. At the end of the day, you can have half an hour break, or you can do whatever. There has been a bit of a switch to some people working longer days because of they think they've got more time, and so it's just a bit of a watch out, really, isn't it? But without doubt, it's a big plus.
Well, that brings me nicely onto the next challenge, I guess, Elaine, which is about managing your time. What sort of challenges do we face by working from home, which you've sort of just gently touched upon then?
Yeah, well, we're all different, aren't we? Time management for me, I've worked from home in some shape or form for 20 plus years. So I'm not saying I'm a master at it, but I know my personal flaws, and so I have, counteract some of the things that could easily be detrimental to not just my business but my well-being. So for me, I plan my time sort of in blocks anyway, and stick quite diligently to that. And that's only, as I say, because for years, my husband used to say, is that an hour of everybody else's time, or is that hour that ends up being 2? Because it was just be an hour, and it was it was 2. So it took me a long time to get that right. So yeah, as I say, it's one of those things. We're all different, but know the areas that are going to be your time stealers. And is it that you think, right, I don't have your phone on your desk, put it on the other side of the room while you're doing certain things so you can focus on it? Is what is it that's going to make you more productive? As it's got to be the priority, and don't feel the need to keep going and have your lunch at your desk and all of that. Why do that? You don't need to do that. You can go off and watch the television for half an hour if you want. You can do what you want, can't you?
Do you know what? That's been one of the biggest changes of my working day. I always used to work through lunch when I was in an office environment. Always. And it would be a sandwich in front of the screen and so on and so forth. I now, working from home, I now have a proper break. I'll break for an hour, and I'll feel guilty about that because I'm ingrained into working through lunch. So when I come back, I think I should have come back half an hour early, but I shouldn't.
No,
it's a guilt feeling that is irrational. It's just the way that I was used to working for so many years, and suddenly working from home, no, I'd take a conscious break.
They might be one and the same, Chris, but what tools do you use, or what practical tips can we give people about the managing of time, either generally or perhaps more specifically for marketing?
In terms of cutting down on the time.
Well, or making sure that you stay focused and disciplined to use that time, whether it be when you're doing some marketing stuff for your business. Have you blocked out a certain period so you make sure that you do it at the same time each week, or to make sure that you spend only the reasonable amount of time doing something as opposed to days and days and days for something that just can't be justified?
I've got to hold my hands up and say I'm probably the worst person to ask about that. I have certain things that are immovable during the course of a week, so you could argue that those are time blocked out, but with other stuff, I will decide the night before what I need to achieve the following day, and sit there until it's done. Generally, I say generally because nobody's perfect, are they? I'd sound perfect if I said, well, I accomplish everything I want to do. But I will before I go downstairs and do the commute. I'll sit down and do a to-do list for the following day.
Okay. Elaine, what do you use or do?
What do I do? I have I use Outlook calendar, so everything goes in there, and then I have my calendar link as well, which I sort of marry those two together. So for me, I have, it doesn't matter if it's obviously I've got like appointments that are set in stone, agreed with other people, but when I'm planning my own stuff, I will have my social media, anything to do with social media is done before 9 o'clock. So I'll do anything like that before then, whether it's a blog or whatever it is, interacting with people. I do that. Then 9 o'clock, I can come off that, and then my time then is already planned for what I'm going to do. So the big stuff is already in, and like next week's is already in, and then then the bits like tomorrow, I've got a real sort of writing section and some stuff to catch up on tomorrow, and that's already planned in. I know I'm doing it tomorrow. I knew on Monday I was doing it tomorrow. So that's how I operate, really. So not saying it's perfect by any means, but I always have a little list in front of me, as in, these are, if you do nothing else, do these things today, as a bit of a prompt. And it could be as simple, don't forget to respond to that email, or that type of stuff. But the big chunks are already in, and that's the way I have to work, really. And it certainly works for me.
With 22 million UK users, LinkedIn offers a fabulous opportunity to find your ideal clients and to stay ahead of your competition. But what do these future clients currently find when they visit your profile? First impressions count. So, are you proud of your fantastic profile because it is client ready and written with them in mind? Or do you look at it and wonder how you could do better because you are not generating leads? My Marketing Guy works with those who want to take advantage of the amazing potential offered by LinkedIn. So, for more details, please email guy@mymarketingguy.co.uk to arrange an initial consultation. Remember, your next client is on LinkedIn.
It's all about organisation, isn't it? I use Asana for managing projects, so marketing can be one of those Pandora's boxes where you set out doing one thing, but actually as you're going along it becomes loads of things, and then you come up with ideas for other things in addition to the things that you didn't expect you were going to have on your list to begin with. And so I find if you can, Asana's great for being able to create all those, and you can drag and drop and move things around, so you can reprioritize. So if you come out, if you want to just have a mind dump, a brain dump of all your ideas, you can do it, but in a way where you can still move things over into a column and go, right, that's not priority, but I'll get to that later, and you can tick them off as you go through, and then you can keep focused on what it was you set out to do, but at the same time also be able to keep track of all the other things that you've come up with as you go along, because there's still good ideas and there might be things you want to do quite quickly, but it doesn't have to detract you from what you're planning on doing. And the other thing, and we are going to introduce a tool, a resource of the week, which Elaine's come up with. Do you want to tell everyone what it is? Because I'm just about to explain why that's also a godsend.
And that is the calendar links. There's two that spring to mind. There's probably loads more out there, but there's Acuity, which is Acuity, and there's Calendly. I'm not sure if you say it that way, but that's how it looks anyway. And they're the two I know of. I use Acuity. I may well be switching to Calendly though, but there's free versions of both. And then obviously there's paid versions as well, which obviously give you more access to things. But they are just such a time saver. I am Mrs. Gadget, which I think I've said before. I do anything that saves time. Just makes complete sense to me. So they are that. Why would you want 6 emails going backwards and forwards to book a time slot in with somebody when you can just put it in your signature on your email and just say links below, book a time that works for both of us. It just, to me, it's really easy. So why wouldn't you do that?
I can see I'm going to have to look at this a bit more carefully.
It's amazing, Chris. I came across this about, I think it was November, and it's changed my life, because I always used to try and block things, but invariably people had arranged meetings. When I looked at my diary, I could never get any momentum in doing stuff, because it'd always keep on getting broken up by meetings, and I'd always go, right, I'm going to try and restrict my meetings to Tuesdays and Thursdays, say. But you'd always get out of the habit, or you'd forget, or someone would throw something at you, or you'd have, like Elaine's just said, 5 million emails going, hi, do you want a meeting? Yeah, I'd love a meeting. When do you want to have a meeting? Oh, I don't know. But tell me when you're free. Oh, well, I'm probably free Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. All right, well, what about Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday sounds good. And about 15 emails in, you've only just agreed it. Whereas I use Calendly, and I've gone for the pro version, so I've paid, I think it's about £200 for the year. It can be inbuilt into your website, so people can jump on your website and book a time for you. You can create various different types of meetings. You send them the link. So instead of having those back and forths, you go, do you fancy a meeting? They'll go, yeah. I'll go, great. Here's a link. That's my diary. Jump in, pick a time that suits you best, and I'll find out automatically. They do it. Not only does it create a Zoom link for them, not only does it put it in your diary, it sends them a reminder as well, so that you're not going to miss out. And the best part of it is that you can adjust the settings for those different appointment types. So, for example, going back to what I said at the outset, I can set my calendar to only allow appointments between 9 and, say, 4 on a Tuesday and a Thursday, with an hour before and an hour after each meeting. And then when people are booking them in, the computer automatically goes, right, he's only doing Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we've got one at 12, so you can only do the next one at 2 o'clock. And it organises your diary like a personal assistant, and that stops me from blurring the lines as I've always done on a more personal basis. I love it. It's amazing.
All right, I'm sold.
We'll stick a link in for both Acuity and Calendly, because obviously it's much of a muchness, isn't it? I think they both do much the same thing, but it's personal preference really. So you can check up those out, and thank you very much for raising those, Elaine. I think they're amazing. Check them out, people. Which brings me, I suppose, onto another challenge / opportunity, I suppose, with working from home, which depending upon you as a person, which side of the coin that falls on. So for you, Elaine, certainly you've just mentioned you love a good gadget, so the challenge of using technology because you're locked in your house is probably an exciting thing for you. I know it is for me, because I love a good old gadget. Chris, is it a challenge for you, or is it an exciting opportunity, or did it start off as a challenge but has now become an exciting opportunity?
I like a good gadget. I can get extremely frustrated with them and throw them against the wall. But those that I get to understand, I embrace totally. So it's all about the type, the nature and type of gadget and or app and or website, anything that can help me. The Calendly one sounds good for self-discipline, and that's one of the drawbacks of working for yourself, because you can make it up as you go along. You do. So you do need that self-discipline, and I can see the relevance of Calendly there. There are difficulties in building relationships, aren't there, with clients, but it's not insurmountable. And we're going to have to get used to it, because, as you said before, Mark, we're in this for some time now. It's not all going to disappear on February the 14th, which was it February the 14th that Boris, mid-February anyway.
16th or something, I don't know, somewhere around there. Yeah.
It's not all going to disappear then, so we are going to have to get used to this for some considerable months yet.
And what technologies have you found really useful during this lockdown, Chris?
Anything that assists with my social media planning. I already used something like Hootsuite, which is a huge time saver for planning social media. I'd let it slide a little bit, but I'm using it more and more now. There's another called App Promo Republic, which we can put in the show notes, which helps you with your social media as well, gives you ideas for content, which content creation is the bane of most people's lives on using social media. But App Promo Republic will just stir those creative juices that if they need stirring, and mine sometimes need stirring.
I think that goes for all of us. Elaine, what technologies have you found fantastic? Whether they be ones you were already using, but you're now using more, or things you've come across since you were locked in your house?
As you were asking Chris that question, I was thinking, what have I done that's new? And actually, I haven't really. I think everything I've, like the calendar link and all that, I've been doing now probably about a year, I think. So I haven't really created anything new. I know.
You have, you fibber. You see, these are things that I suppose this is what's always quite exciting about the fact that things become so normal quite quickly, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, since you've been in lockdown, Elaine, you've started doing your podcast, which is a great way of marketing your business electronically from your own home. Zoom.
You're right.
Had you ever used Zoom before you went into lockdown?
I had, yeah. Zoom I have used before. I haven't used it as much as I have done over this last few months. But yes, but the podcast, yeah, you're right. You know, there are things. I am the what's the word? I have a love of learning anyway, and so I'm always looking at the next thing. What could that look like? So. Yeah, I suppose you're right with the podcast. That was quite a big undertaking to sort of not just what does it look like, your content and all of that. It's using the platform and but there's so much help out there now, isn't there? I know I keep saying banging that drum, but you can get so much help on these things. YouTube is a wonderful thing, isn't it? For sometimes filling in the gaps for you.
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Well, you don't read
down your green screen.
Well, you don't read the instructions. I mean, I never read the instructions anyway because I'm a man. But you don't have to read instructions anymore because there's a YouTube video, and the green screen that you just mentioned there, Elaine, is a perfect example. Instead of reading the instructions where you can never figure out how the hell to get this thing to just twist back into that tiny little circle, you watch some Norwegian fella doing it instead, and he does it really easy. And all right, it probably still takes you as long to figure it out, but at least you can watch somebody doing it going, how did he do that?
That fella is a contortionist, though.
But everything
I've got
now.
mine back in the bag. I'm trying to get it out again now. I'm like, oh my god.
But there are lots of free digital resources out there at the moment. In fact, most resources generally start free, don't they? And tend to have a price entry point when you want some of the additional features.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, there is. There's so many good things out there. I think that just a bit, words to the wise on that, isn't there? I have been and still can be, the shiny person syndrome. Think, there's something new. I need to try that. And so I have really had to sort of think, do I need that thing in my life? I'm talking business wise now. Do I need that to function, or is it just something I can look at a later time? Because we can absolutely, one of the biggest time stealers we all have is Googling something, and then there we are an hour and a half later thinking, that's really good, but actually I don't think I'm going to get it anyway. There's an hour and a half of your life you're never going to get back. So it shouldn't be, we shouldn't use things because someone else says it's amazing. We should use it because it's going to help our business and save us time, or be beneficial in some way.
Now,
easier said than done sometimes.
If you're furloughed, or you're thinking about going self-employed, or you've just become self-employed, or you want to upskill, there are loads of courses out there which you can do online, and I'm saying that to people who both offer online training courses to help people upskill. I guess that's definitely both a pro and a solution to the technology con if you're not necessarily a technological minded person.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done it ourselves, haven't we? We've gone on the courses to find out more about this, that, or the other, to upskill ourselves. And being furloughed is the ideal time to do that. And I've worked with a few people last year who were on furlough on their LinkedIn profiles and a bit of Facebook as well. And these people wanted to hit the ground running when they got back to work. So being furloughed, as people are now, the ideal time to contact people like ourselves.
And if you can't upskill, there's always a collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. I've sort of this week already got someone that I'm going to collaborate. Well, 2 people actually. One last week, one this week. We're going to do something together, and that is a thing, isn't it? When you're working so much on your own, which we are currently, and the only people we're meeting are online. It's a great thing to be able to collaborate with people and do something, and it's actually sort of sharing ideas and thoughts and creativity as well is important, I think, because you can go a little bit, I think, as Chris mentioned at the start, stir crazy if you only have the conversations with yourself.
It also overcomes the loneliness factor.
Yeah.
Because that's very real in people who work for themselves from home, especially in lockdown. You can be a lonely person just working for yourself, but in lockdown it's even more lonely. So collaboration with others on podcasts like this with you two is brilliant for as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
And probably the final challenge I've got down on my list is about general life getting in the way when you're stuck at home, because when most people go to the office, they can leave their normal day-to-day lives behind. Certainly at the minute, if you've got little munchkins, you are probably in the morning doing geography, maths and English, and desperately trying to cover up the fact that you've forgotten everything that your children now know off by heart, whilst also then trying to fit in doing some work, whilst also trying to market your business.
Yeah, I mean, as a mum, but obviously a mum with old children, it's I just cannot imagine how challenging that will be. Well, I can imagine how challenging it would be, but the only way I would have to look at it if I was in that situation is be realistic, because I think some of the biggest challenges come when we're not being realistic with our time. So if I know that I'm not going to actually be able to do anything till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, then don't stress over that. Just accept that I'm not going to be able to do anything till maybe it's going to be the evening. So you just as soon as you accept that and you plan towards that, it's just that release of, rather than sitting there thinking, oh God, I should be doing this now, I should be doing that, and why set yourself an expectation that you're never going to be able to fulfill. And that's where you collaborating in that way is perhaps you can team up with someone else who can help you, or they can do some bit of your job, or they can help you in some way and you can repay them in another way, whatever that looks like. You've got to be, you can't achieve the unachievable, can you? And that causes no end of stress when you're trying to do that.
No, quite right.
Hopefully that's given you some ideas of how to keep on marketing effectively from the comforts of your own home. We're going to do a run of shows which follow a similar theme so that they're very relevant for the right here and right now. So next week we're going to be looking more in detail at one of those technologies that we've mentioned, which is Zoom, going through some of the really fantastic tools that are available on there that certainly Chris and Elaine use on a regular basis, and I love to have a play with just because they're there. As we said as we said earlier on, the resource tool that we're going to start recommending every show was brought to us by Elaine. It is the Acuity and Calendly option, which will stick links in the show. Check them out, they are fantastic, and I'll stick a link in for the app Promo Republic as well that Chris mentioned, because you can never have too many recommendations, I guess. Check us out on social media, as we said at the outset. If you want to listen to the show, you can listen on all of the major podcast platforms. If you subscribe, it means the next show downloads automatically. If you want to find easy links to those platforms, if you go to the podstation.co.uk/gofish, you'll find them all there. Or you can listen to us now on YouTube, which is very exciting.
Very.
It is, isn't it? Ooh, technology. So thank you very much for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll check you in a fortnight's time. Elaine, Chris, thank you very much for all of your help today.
Thank you, Mark.
Great show. Thank you, guys.
And we'll catch you next time. See you later.
All the best.
Get social at go_fish marketing on Instagram, Facebook,